Welcome to today's session. Please can someone confirm that they can hear me? Hello, can someone confirm that they can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Is anybody there?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you for that. So we'll be commenting. Welcome again to the two of thank, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the feedback. I think I'm sure it will be a lag on my end. I'm trying to fix that. Really wonderful. I'm sure a lot of acts that are very beautiful. So if you were here and you really enjoyed this session, I just want you to so you could just react with a thumbs up if you really enjoyed the session from yesterday. Okay, sorry about that. Please, can you hear me now? I just tried to fix up my network.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. So as I was saying before the interruption with the network. So um, as I said, yesterday was actually very wonderful. We had amazing sessions, starting from our keynote session down to the panelist session. Everything was just beautiful, and I'm sure that those that were here could attest to the fact. Today is day two, and we have a lot planned for you guys. So sit tight and then enjoy the session. Without further ado, I will be inviting our moderator for today, who will be guiding us through today's sessions. So, Miwe, please, you can come up. Our moderator for today is Mrs. Miwe Harrison. So, with a round of applause, we could just welcome her as she officially kickstarts today's program. Just give her a few minutes, she's connecting her audio.
Hello, can we hear me now? Good morning, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can we hear me? Good morning.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, can we hear me now?
Yeah, I think it's your speaker if you can't hear us because we're actually hearing you.
Okay, that's good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to our conference today. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for handing over. Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here. So we're going to kick off immediately with the opening statement by the chairperson in person of by our I'm going to kick off with an opening. Hold on, give me a minute, please. I think I'm mixing. Yes, so we're going to kick off with the opening statement by our CEO in person of Mr. Silas Ozoya. So, Mr. Silas, would like to hear from you. Welcome. Mr. Silas, are you there?
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, you're welcome.
All right. Yesterday we had a huge attendance and very engaging um community around the conversations that happened yesterday, and we talked about resilience. We talked about um building financial resilience in this recent time, leveraging digital platforms like what we're doing at Suba Capital. And today we're going to be building on that, and we're going to be looking at assessing capital for entrepreneurs and also leveraging the cooperative system to assess capital. We have two amazing people today as guests. Someone I respect so much in the ecosystem, the person of Uche Aniche, who is going to be giving the keynote. And then we have Elizabeth Ekbo, who is an expert when it comes to finance, to be able to give us guidance. But before I go ahead, I would also like to introduce some of the key people behind our platform and our product or what we do. Adako Ekweme, who is our COO and the technical product lead. I'll invite her shortly before we go into the keynote to also make an opening statement. And we have Uyime, who is moderating today. Sam, um, and a whole bunch of other guys, Femi, Covenant, and Peace, who are behind the product development. These are the people that are behind the platform called Suba Capital, what you know as Suba Capital today. So, without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic over to Adaku for a brief opening about Suba Capital from the perspective of operations and product development. Adaku.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for that speech, Mr. Silas. And I am excited, and the emotions are just too much because I am just waiting for today's session to begin. Right, like he has said, my name is Adako, and I lead the product team here at Suba Capital. And at Suba Capital, the product we have is the Suba Capital app. It is made for young people, small business owners, wherever you are in your personal finance journey, in your journey to financial freedom. This is your partner, and it is going to help you through the hoops and the hooks of building your personal finance. Now, let's talk about the product, Suba Capital app. The product has three main features, which is the feature that allows you to save your money. It has a feature that allows you to invest, and it also has a feature that allows you to receive funds in form of loans, micro loans, yes. And it is also very affordable because the rates are very as reasonable as it could be allowed within the ecosystem. We have one of the lowest rates, and that's because of the model that we run. We understand that young people need access to finance, and we also understand that small business owners also need access to finance to be able to push their products and their businesses. And that's why we have built Super Capital app, which is your personal party, if I should put it like that, while you are working hard for your money. So when it comes to savings, we are not just saving abstractly. On the Super Capital app, you can set your goals for savings. So we already have some pre-named goals. However, you also have a clean slate to name whatever specific goals that you're saving for. The great thing is you can save for as long as 4 years. I don't think any other feature does that. You can save for as much as 4 years. You can set a goal. Like I made an example yesterday saying that if I decided to train my children and I want to start saving for them now, I can set up a fund on Super Capital app. I name it school fees for to maybe a child I haven't given back to yet, and then I begin to commit some small amount to that fund every week, every month. up until I get married, say in 2026, I give birth in 2027. By 2029, when the child is off to daycare, I already have enough money to send the child to school without having to worry too much about it. I'm not sure there are other people doing this for you as a young person. So you are able to plan your life ahead using the Suba Capital app. And we also have the investment feature. Now, unlike what we have everywhere, I know that there's so much information when it comes to investment, personal finance, where people are worried about what the charts say, what stocks are up today, what stocks are down tomorrow, where do I put this amount of money? We have saved you the stress of indecision, right? So on the Super Capital app, you just choose a plan that fits your income bracket, and you can consistently save every month up until you hit your target for your investment. Okay, so you could do 25,000, you could do 50,000, you could do 100,000, something that is convenient for you. And another great thing that you could do with the Super Capital app is the fact that you can save your money towards each of these goals. Okay, so unlike a traditional bank where your money gets to lose value because of the numerous charges that your money incurs while sitting in their vaults, you can save on Super Capital app, and I'm certain you will not lose a dime of that money up until it's enough for you to put it into any of the investments that we have. Okay, so that's basically what the Super Capital app is. I'd like to hand it over back to the moderator, and I hope that if you're here, you haven't downloaded the app, you could quickly go down to Play Store. I'll drop the link in the comments, in the chats. You download the app, and yes, of course, because I'm a salesperson, use my referral code. My name is Adaku, ADAKU. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adaku, for that beautiful one. So we're moving right ahead to the panel session. And we're going to be inviting our panelists for today to talk with us in the person of Elizabeth Epo, CFA, and Mrs. Silas Ozoya. So, Miss Elizabeth Epo, you're welcome. Could you please tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you very much, Yume. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Silas Sozoya and the people of Suba Capital for having me today. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and also interact with your community and share knowledge. My name is Elizabeth Epo. I have over maybe 13, 14 years of experience in finance. And I have worked across the financial markets in Nigeria, from the capital markets to consulting, and now currently just working on my own, supporting people with their finances. I'm a CFA charter holder. I studied BSc Economics, and then I have a master's in financial economics as well. So that's just a brief about me. I love traveling. I have 2 kids, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good to meet you. So, Mr. Silas, could you tell us a little about yourself again for the benefit of those who were not here yesterday and who have not met you before?
Okay, so hi everybody. Once again, my name is Silas Ozoya. I am privileged. I will always say I'm privileged. I'm privileged to be the founder and the CEO at Suba Capital. And my background is a very interestingly mixed background. Originally started in computer studies and then education, and then went on to financial management and business administration. So it's just a mix of everything that I put into my work at Suba Capital. Also, when it comes to technology, my focus is on product management and delivering seamless product throughout the product life cycle. So basically, I'm the product executive. I double or triple as the product executive at Super Capital while doing my work as the chief investment officer and the chief executive officer as well. So So that's me with a basket full of a whole lot of other things. But generally, I would say I'm just a simple guy. I'm just the guy that they send errands around at Suba Capital. So there we go.
Thank you, Mrs. Silas. So nice to meet both of you again. All right, our panel session today will be on unlocking financial freedom for small business owners in emerging markets. So we're going to kick off. So, Mr. Silas, I would ask, what would you say is financial freedom for small business owners, especially in emerging markets?
Especially in emerging markets like Nigeria, Africa, as you were, um, financial freedom would be able to do the things you want to do in your business as at when you want to do them. That is the main purpose of freedom. So we had a couple of guys that came onto the conference yesterday who do different things, right? The fact that they can't finance or have capital to be able to do the things they want to do in their business, that is financial freedom for small businesses. So if you want to, restock your inventory, if you want to go on a business trip, if you want to fund payroll for your staff, the operations and all of that, that is financial freedom. So the ability or that access to capital to be able to do all of that is what gives the small business owner the freedom to be able to grow their business at whatever level they are in.
Okay, thank you. So that is to say that they would need to have some form of financial literacy for them to be able to do that. So, Miss Elizabeth, could you tell us, do you have any personal or professional experience that illustrates why financial literacy is actually key to small business success?
Thank you very much, Yime. And trying to think of that experience, I'll think about an auntie that I have, and she had a small pharmacy, and she's had this pharmacy that's small for a very long time. And one of the challenges she had was being able to expand, grow, and be able to do more for her community. Because the need of the community as population grew got bigger and bigger. But she just couldn't have access. And not just only access, because she was always dipping her hand into her business finances for her own personal gain as well. It just became a challenge. And so every time she would always come to my mom to get money to restock the inventory, and almost like raising capital all the time, because the one that you used before that is supposed to be, turned around and reinvested into your business, you've kind of eaten it. And so it then became very obvious that one of the challenges she had was being able to manage her finances and as a business, and being able to even separate that from her own personal income and know that her business is standalone business and is supposed to be sustainable. And so it became very important to start teaching her the dynamics of even just bookkeeping, the dynamics of what capital is, the dynamics of what profit is, and how profit is actually what you should be eating out of, not necessarily your capital, what working capital is, and all that. And the challenge with people like that is, again, we know that Nigeria is, or even sub-Saharan Africa is 80% informal. And most of this informal sector don't have the financial literacy to be able to manage businesses. Everyone probably has a kiosk in front of their house or something, or there's a malam somewhere that is selling a small stall and all that. But those businesses are just starting points that can grow if they're well equipped with the knowledge that they need to manage a business properly, be diligent in what they're doing, understand bookkeeping, understand capital and all. So for me, that would be the basis of every small, medium scale entrepreneur, starting to even understand how do you even manage your finances so you're not always in the bind, and you can actually get this freedom. Start talking about the financial freedom, right, that Silas was talking about, and being able to just kickstart that process, because it is in that discipline that you are now able to scale up, you're able to show consistency, and maybe the formal sector can then begin to start looking at you to offer you credit that can enable you to achieve the financial freedom that you're thinking about.
Okay, so if I may say in a nutshell, the financial literacy would eventually lead to making them credit worthy to be able to get
Yes,
to
to a
be
large
credit worthy.
extent. Yeah.
So most of what you said leads us to the challenges that small businesses or young professionals may face while trying to gain financial freedom. So this question would go to Mrs. Silas. I would say, what are the biggest challenges small business owners in emerging economies face? What would you say are the biggest challenges they face, aside from dipping hand in the money from the business, which Elizabeth mentioned?
I think one of the biggest challenge the small businesses face is access to capital, which is very obvious, right? And the access to capital is linked to what Elizabeth mentioned earlier, which is the knowledge about money, how money works, the money records, and things like that. Inability to document, right, or the lack of documentation. There is no track record of what they've been doing with their business or what the business is doing. So the lenders are not able to make an informed decision on whether to make capital available to them or not. There's also the lack of trust in the ecosystem because the example Elizabeth mentioned is a typical thing that happens in a lot of informal sector that has discouraged lenders from also making capital available to emerging markets or emerging entrepreneurs, as it were. Take, for instance, somebody takes a credit from a microfinance bank or microfinance institution. A typical example I've seen before is somebody takes loan that is meant for business to go and buy a deep freezer, and they ended up not buying the deep freezer, but used the money to fund the burial for a parent that was dead and things like that. So these are some of the challenges. There's also cultural influence, there's family influence, there is peer pressure, right? There is also mismanagement of funds, not by their own making, but because of the way the system is built, there's also exposure to financial and operational risk, which is something we are not strangers to. In 2022, for example, our entire farm of over 16 million in valuation got burnt down due to community clashes, right? So these are little um, challenges that small businesses face, either by their own making or by influence of third parties that they do not have control over. It then makes those businesses in emerging markets like Nigeria and Africa difficult to either fund in regards to capital or to be able to grow because they don't have access to capital. So it's a two-edged sword, sort of.
Thank you, Mr. Silas, for that exposure about the challenges and the barriers. Okay, so Elizabeth, I would come back to you. I would say, looking at these challenges and knowing that some of them are cultural or social norms that are affecting the learning, the getting financially literate and being able to make wise financial decisions, how would you say that these people can be helped? How can they be helped so that they are able to move past the barrier?
I think one of the major areas, well, which I kind of feel like is the foundation of everything, is education, right? Exposure to information and education, I think, is a starting point for which they can be helped. You now begin to tell them, and that comes from training, capacity building, and it can take different forms and different ways. And that could be community-based, can even be just maybe an app that is teaching them all these things, or it could even be, physical session where, someone is facilitating and they can actually learn. I think it's important because first, it gives them knowledge. They're able to see the why, and they can able to see the outcome, and they're able to see the disconnect between the two and how it is impacting their business. So I think knowledge is very key in helping people get out of this barrier or overcome this barrier. They need to understand the need first to proper record keeping and how that helps their business. Because if they don't understand, then they'll just think, oh, what's she saying? It's my money, I can do it whatever I want, right? So education is key. And not just education, not telling them why is important, but teaching them also how to, how to deal with the problem and how to resolve it. And what are the, things that enablers that we have within the environment that can help them deal with this solution or deal with this problem. Maybe something that Suba Capital is offering or any other platform is offering that can help them begin to deal with this challenge. Importance of also even saving, what we call in the normal corporate or retained earnings, right? Important thing that out of all your profits, you don't have to use everything. You can keep some that you can reinvest into your business, and that can help you. Importance of access to capital. That's important. So knowledge is important. Also, I also think testimonies, when they have seen other people gone through this and are able to showcase, I think that's one of the biggest things, when people can actually showcase other people's success stories on how they've been helped, knowledge, training, and just the discipline to carry these things out and how it has successfully helped their business. People tend to always fall in line and want to follow that as well. I think those two things are very, very important and critical. And then people even need to even understand, sometimes we don't even know what is holding us back. We don't know that the cultural norms are what is holding us back. We don't know that our culture and different belief systems that we hold onto are the things that are holding us back. And so for such a person, they must understand their limiting beliefs or the limiting cultural norms that is facing them and how they can overcome those barriers to be able to, get out of it. Anything that you can identify and call out, you probably don't even know is a problem. So you must first understand that there's a problem and it's associated with this and it's because of this, and how do I overcome that problem? So it's also very important at that level as well for them to understand all the barriers that are holding them back, and not just understanding the barriers, the different enablers that we have within the community, within the country, within super capital that can help them overcome these barriers, and what the next step, and the next step action that they need to take. So there must always be a follow-on action, right? On this is what you can do to get this result. It's not just talk, but what are the action steps that need to be taken to be able to overcome these barriers?
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So we're back to you, Mr. Silas. Elizabeth mentioned that platforms like Suba Capital and some others can help. So would like you to tell us, how might fintech platforms or financial institutions, better address this issue? Over to you, Mr.
Eh,
Silas.
Yeah, so one of the ways we can address the issue, I would like to use what we're doing at Suba Capital as like a typical example, right? One of the ways we can address this issue is to go to the people to meet them where they are, right? Most of the fintech platforms are doing their bit, but they are not reaching the very grassroots of the larger part of the emerging markets. Nigeria, for example, has over 80 million, as at the last FINA report in 2020, that are financially excluded. Now, these 80 million people are not only in Lagos. I know the Lagos people are going to come for me, but hear me out, right? They are not only in Lagos. They are not only in Abuja or in Port Harcourt, which are like the three biggest cities in Nigeria, right? There are places like Delta. There are places like Bayelsa. There are places like Kogi exist on the map. Places like Kaduna and Kano and Katsina, they exist on the map. The larger portion of people who actually feed the country, right, are from these places that the fintechs barely reach, which is my point, right? So what we are then doing is Interestingly, as Suba Capital, we started in Lagos in
What is the
2020.
contract?
So what we are now doing is, after a few years operating from Lagos, we started seeing that the concentration of fintech platforms and fintech providers or microfinance providers generally are focused or clustered in Lagos. Fine, Lagos is a commercial hub, but the south of Nigeria is a huge population. Edo State alone is over 5 million in population. We're not talking Delta, we've not even touched the eastern part of Nigeria, which is like the business and manufacturing hub of Nigeria. These are places where you have heavy emerging markets that need to be reached with what we need to do to bridge that gap between access to capital and the knowledge of people who have financial literacy, as Elizabeth has mentioned earlier. So my point here is the way to bridge that gap is to take the message away from the commercial centers and take it down to the people at the grassroots. And that's what we're doing at Suba Capital. So we're taking it to the market clusters. We're taking it to the professional clusters. We're taking it to university campuses. We're taking it to secondary schools if possible, so that if it is possible, they start getting educated as early as possible. They start getting educated where they are. Now, the barrier to that is a lot of people might not be able to manipulate technology because these things run on technology. So what we then do is to create more like a liaison between the technology savvy people or the digitally savvy people and those that are digitally poor. A Mama Risika at the junction might not be able to operate the Suba Capital app, but this Mama Risika contributes 200 naira, 500 naira every single day to a collector that comes there. So if that collector can then be an agent on the app or on our platform, that bridges the gap between Mama Risika and a technology platform like us. So that way it becomes inclusive so that those people on the side that are not technology savvy are able to be brought into the fold, and their informal financial transaction is documented in a way where they are then able to access capital. That is going to bridge the gap continuously. And the wider we are able to reach people, right, the more people we are beginning to bring into that inclusive financial solution, the more we are able to then solve the problem and close that gap of financial exclusion. For us, we have moved our corporate headquarters away from Lagos into Benin City to make sure that we are in the south of Nigeria where people really need our help. And we are going to start from Edo State to Delta, to Bayelsa, to Port Harcourt, to Uyo, to as many places where these big fintechs are not touching and not reaching, so that these people out of the 80 million are able to be rich with this particular solution and with the message of financial literacy. Hopefully, we'll be able to contribute a little bit to solving and bridging that gap of financial exclusion in Nigeria. Over to you, Yime.
Thank you, Mrs. Silas. Okay, so Miss Elizabeth, could you, build on how let's say banks, governments, NGOs, what role can they play to support this move?
I mean, thank you very much, and thank you very much, Silas, for what Suba Capital is doing, because sometimes we really get carried away and think the world revolves just within Lagos. And we get carried away with the fun fair and everything that's happening in Lagos, and we think that is all of Nigeria. But there are people, I know, I remember one time I was asking my auntie if she had seen the money I sent to her. She was like, oh, she hasn't, because she doesn't have light to charge her phone. And the bank is like in the next community or in the next city. So she has to travel like almost an hour to be able to get to the bank. And I'm wondering, how are you serving people in those local areas, right? So well done to Suba Capital for what you're doing. You're going to the grassroots, going to the communities that really need this support. So in terms of what government, banks, NGOs, and everyone has a role to play, even the individual that is affected has a role to play, right? Because one, they have to be willing, right, to be able to take on this new service. Is change. They need to be willing to be disrupted, right, by what they know, from what they know to what can help them live better lives. But beyond them, as all other stakeholders have a role to play. So government, for instance, what's government there to do? They are there to, one, provide enabling environment. So from a cooperative perspective and all that, we need to modernize legislation. I know the central bank is doing a lot, but there's still more that needs to be done. We need enabling frameworks that enable fintechs like Suba Capital be able to start up and really offer these services without too much regulatory burden, right? But of course, ensuring that risks are properly managed and accountability. But clear laws, clear legislation that enables the ecosystem. Government also needs to provide funding because, again, investors cannot provide everything. So some form of grants, support at whatever level for capacity building, for the fintechs to be able to expand and scale their operations, that needs to be brought into place. So government has a role to play in that area. Now, the banks, which are like the bigger formal sector, also have a role to play. We need to start thinking about products that meets this informal sector, partnering with the fintechs. What am I talking about? One of the major challenge of people with lack of access to capital is there's no credit scoring, right? There's no record keeping of any kind. And there's no established relationship with these banks. But they have an established relationship with Suba Capital, with a cooperative, with a fintech somewhere, right? That shows what they have been doing over time. Is there a bespoke product that can be created that leverages that that digital footprint to be able to give them access to the more formal sector? So at the end of the day, fintechs like Suba Capital then become a bridge between that informal sector and the more formal sector for scale, for efficiency, and for impact, right? These are things that we can begin to think about from a bank partnering with the fintech perspective to achieve financial inclusion and achieve, the economic goals of Nigeria. NGOs, of course, NGOs have a role to play as well. They can fund pilot projects, new products that we are starting out. So funding, providing grants to people like Suba Capital to be able to take on these challenges and actually try it out, right? With a sample set, one community, is it going to work, and how is that happening? Provide even training as well to Suba Capital and on different things that they can do, things that have worked in other countries, and how that can be modernized or customized for the Nigerian community. The NGOs, because of their reach and all that, can offer those type of support, whether it's on governance, whether it's on digital finance, or that is on sustainable business models, right? Of course, the NGOs can support all that. So we've seen examples, like I know an example of a cooperative or a fintech in Ghana that is collaborating with an NGO, I think it's GIZ, that's collaborating with them, and this has led to like almost 60% increase in formal savings from among women, farmers, women, a lot, just in 18 months, and that is through the technology integration and mobile integration that they have done in support with this NGO that they are working with. So partnership then becomes a very critical part. The fintechs can't work alone. And of course, with the open banking model, APIs, the system the fintechs can also connect to the banking sector as well to be able to provide easy KYC onboarding for their clients, access to finance, digital records, and all that, right? Link it with BVNs and all that, and NIN that gives some proper identification and all that. So I think those are areas where partnerships and collaborations and the role of all stakeholders then begins to play, with government providing the enabling framework that enables all these things to happen in a trusted and well transparent manner. Thank you. So you're muted, Ime.
Thank you so much. You have spoken extensively. You have even provided answers to some of the questions that would have popped up. So thank you. Mr. Silas, we would ask you one more question and then wrap up this section awaiting. If we have questions, please, for those of us listening, if we have questions from all of what we're talking about here, let's kindly drop them in the chat so that we can take the questions as soon as we're done discussing. So, Mr. Silas, to wrap up, I would say, what does the future of cooperative finance look like, say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I would rather frame the question to look like, what would I like it to look like, right? Because um, where we are now, we are still in a very manual phase in Nigeria. When it comes to mutual finance, which is where cooperative finance falls under, most of our processes and all of that are still very manual. You have to visit the offices in person, write letters in printed papers. Emails are not exactly working as state government or licensing bodies or, So where we are now, we have to automate the processes first so that, like Elizabeth mentioned, the trust and the risk management starts with how the compliance comes about. So the reason why a lot of cooperatives are able to become bad actors is because the compliance does not have a record that can be monitored or searched. You know the way you can go on CAC platform and then search a company out. There is nothing like that for cooperatives in Nigeria. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I am hoping that there is a central database of active cooperatives or mutual finance platforms where you can verify who is a good actor and who is not a good actor by the compliance record on that platform. There should also be the formalization of, interestingly, MFIs actually have more like an association that is affiliated with the CBN. So that association, more like the association of microfinance bank, there's also an association for MFIs and cooperatives, right, that reports to the CBN about the activities of MFIs in their locality or in their environment where they cover. However, I would like in the next 5 to 10 years for that body to become as effective as the ones for the microfinance banks and the ones for the commercial banks. Because once that body becomes very effective, it will reduce the playing of bad actors in the sector. In the next 5 to 10 years, I am hoping that a lot more platforms or a lot more mutual funds or cooperative or bodies are able to go digital, like we have done at Suba Capital, to encourage access to their services beyond their immediate environment. So it doesn't have to be limited to walking into the office to be able to access your service. You should be able to access a service with a mobile app, with a web platform, and from anywhere in the world, right? So, which is something we have innovated around. And we have then built a digital platform where people have access to a digital wallet and they can access their digital wallet from anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, as it were. So, in the next 5 to 10 years, we want to see more players in the sector start to automate and innovate around their service, and the regulators or sub-regulators like the Association for Microfinance Institutions to become more active as well as become automated in a way where people, third parties like banks, like partner organizations can verify who the good actor is and who the bad actor is. So that alone is going to build trust in the ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Silas. Thank you so much, Ms. Elizabeth. This has been an insightful session. So final words before we move on to the next segment of this conference. Miss Elizabeth, do you have any final words?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say thank you again to Suba Capital for having me, and well done for the work that you're doing. And of course, like you mentioned, you need to have your association more active, because engagement with government, engagement with various stakeholders is what brings change, right? And so that level of communication needs to happen, and engagement needs to happen for us to see our financial inclusion targets being achieved, and for us to see the kind of scale and reach and that we are hoping to achieve within the financial sector space. Another thing that I feel like we need to start thinking about in that space is, how do you offer bundled products? You talked about a farm that had a fire hazard and was burned down. So how do we begin to offer, just innovate beyond finance? So finance is the initial one, where you talk about savings, access to credit, but beyond that, how do we help them with risk management? How do you support them through your platform? And this is partnership with other people, whether it's insurance, whether it's training, whether it's capacity building, whether it's access to mentorship and all that. Just offering bundle service, so that it can also, these things that we talk about in Lagos, these things that we feel like is only for the corporate world, can begin to trickle down to our SMEs, to our MSMEs in local communities, and it can be really, because that's really the engine of growth for the economy, and they can really begin to do more beyond just living in their own small community, or subsistence living, and begin to have more impact on our economy, and also grow to where we're supposed to be. And we can begin to diversify our economy beyond oil, once our SMEs start becoming big actors in the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Elizabeth. Mr. Silas, final words?
My final words would be that 80 million people is pretty a lot of people that don't have access to finance, right? And that's a problem. I don't know how every other person in the sector can sleep well at night, but I can't. So my final words would be that this is not just a super capital kind of approach or problem to solve. It is every single one's problem to solve. And that is why I would encourage everyone that is attending this conference, because at the end of the day, that's why we're having these conversations, right? So I'm encouraging everyone that has attended this conference, I participated in these sessions, to share this content, what you have learned, what you have heard. Share this content, talk about it, tell somebody about it, invite your family, friends, and foes to come on the Suba Capital platform, and then use the product for themselves, and then invite others to use the product, because that is how this is going to spread. This is not just a solution, it's a movement. It's a movement to close the financial exclusion gap. It's a movement to give access to capital to people who really need it. It's a movement for micro and macroeconomic growth. It's a movement to reduce poverty in Nigeria and across Africa. It's a movement to also reduce hunger, and then trigger economic growth and collective prosperity. And we can't do it alone. So we need your help. And that will be my final word. Talk to somebody, invite people, let us all join hands together as a community. That is why it is called a cooperative. Let's join hands together as a community to be able to solve this problem of financial exclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Silas. Thank you very much, Miss Elizabeth, for sharing with us this morning. A lot has been said, a lot has been picked. So the onus is on us now to run with the knowledge and all that we have learned. Thank you so much once again for your time. And with that, we come to the end of this particular phase of the program. Up next, we're going to invite our keynote speaker in person of Mr. Uche Aniche to talk to us on redefining financial access for emerging entrepreneurs. So Mr. Uche is here. Welcome, Mr. Uche. Good to have you. Good to have you, sir. The floor is all yours now. You're currently muted, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? All right. Okay. So I must say that very much is just let me know. All right, hold on. I don't think you can hear me. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Let me switch to another internet connection.
So while we wait for our keynote speaker to come back on, we can take questions. If we have questions on all that we have been talking about today and even yesterday, please drop them in the chat box so they can be addressed. Yes, welcome back, Mr. Uche. I can see you.
Can anyone else hear me? Just in case my network is
Yes, we
misbehaving
can hear
today,
you
but
much
if you can
better
hear me,
now.
maybe we
Yes, we can
can
hear you.
just, okay. All right. So let me just go straight so that before the internet start acting up, I would have delivered what I need to deliver, right? So I'd like to start by first and foremost saying kudos to Silas, Unime, and the team. I see Adak on the call as well. Kudos to all of you for the fantastic work you're doing. Silas, you've been on this track for quite a while, and I must commend your consistency and the passion that you've exhibited in this, trying to do this thing. I must also commend your ability to create, to raise teams and raise people, quality people over time. I've noted that, and so well done, because it's one of the things that a lot of founders actually struggle. Even more established founders actually even struggle with that. But you've been able to do that with ease over time. So congratulations to you and the team once more. Yeah. So I'm going to go straight and speak to um, the conversation. I don't know if you got my slide or you want to share from, I don't know whether this network will allow me to share from here, but I'm going to try all the same. But if it doesn't, then you may need to share. I want to believe that Unime will share, but otherwise, let me try to share from here. Okay, so just let me know when you can see. All right, so think that you can see my slide
Yes, we can see your
at the
slide.
moment.
Yes, we can.
Um,
It has disappeared.
can I
Yes, we can see your slide.
uh,
We can see your slide currently, sir.
um, all right, thank you very much. I've been given email to recognize the stuff that you give me or other emerging cities entrepreneur to it and more for
I think he may have just gotten knocked off by the internet. So, Nigeria. Okay.
just anyway, you know what? I'm going to give you access to this slide. Please share from your end. Can anyone hear me?
Okay,
Yeah, yes,
sir.
I can. So that would be better if you can share if you can just give us access and we'll share it and you just talk through it.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paste it on the call. So just click through and share.
Oh, that's
Just give
fine.
me a
Thank you.
second.
All right.
Mhm. All right, so go ahead and share from your end. Confirm if you've seen it.
Yes, yes, I've seen it. Just give me a few minutes to set it up.
All right, thanks.
So it's loading. I've seen the page, it's just loading. So please confirm you can see the screen. Can someone confirm that you can see the screen? Hello?
It's not loading, Sam.
All right, are we ready? I use the opportunity to try and see if I can switch to the fiber. Apparently, it's still not working. So are we ready? Okay, great. So you can go full screen, full slideshow. Thank you.
Can you see it now?
It's saying loading. I can see it now. Thank you. All right. So guys, okay, my video is not on yet, so it's on now. Okay. I guess you can, yeah. So let's go. Thanks everyone. Apologies for that network glitches. Okay. So I've been asked to speak about redefining financial access for emerging cities entrepreneurs, for emerging entrepreneurs actually, like I didn't say to it. Now, it's the reason I have done this is because this conversation is on two levels. There is financial access for emerging entrepreneurs, and that means emerging entrepreneurs can be anywhere, right? I wasn't so sure which one you wanted me to focus on, but both of them are equally important conversation, you know, So what I've done is to touch on both of them. And so on that basis, I'm going to start my session. So please, let's go to the next slide. We'll start with some definitions, right? So first off is, who are the emerging entrepreneurs? Who are emerging entrepreneurs? Who would you call emerging entrepreneurs? They are found everywhere. They are found both in emerging cities and they are found even in advanced cities. Emerging entrepreneurs are typically people who are starting out. Mostly what they have is their passion, their grit, and a lot of times very limited track records, right? Very limited track records. Sometimes they're first-time founders and usually in high friction environments. At other times, some of them have limited to no institutional safety net. What does that mean? When we say they are first-time founders in high friction environments, what are we saying? We're basically saying that these people are working in places where it, there is there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of reasons why they shouldn't be doing what they are doing. There's a lot of reasons why they should just focus on something else, why they shouldn't do what they are doing, But they choose to do it. They choose to do it. They choose to do it, So some of these people have limited to no institutional safety net. What does that mean? In environments where you have, let's say, where you have what they call, in advanced countries, you will have things like, so government, says, oh, you don't have a job, so you take this stipend, right? Take this stipend. There's a word is called, and it's eluding me right now, right? You don't have a job, take this stipend until you find a job. So, in other words, you don't have medical care, you're covered, you're covered medically until you can stand on your feet. Or sometimes it's also, you know what? Yes, unemployment benefit, but there's something it's called, there's a word it's called, don't worry, after I remember it, I will say it, right? At other times it's about your social circumstances. There are people who are unable to, they don't have people around them who are, so if something go wrong, there's no backup plan. If something go wrong, there's nobody that can support or can help you, right? So in other words, these are people who are basically just innovating out of necessity, right? They just have to do this in the survival mode, right? They just have to do this, okay? They have to do this. They don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know how the children of Israel got to the Red Sea, right? The choices they are left with. The choices they are left with is either to turn back and return back to Egypt, right? Or to march forward and drown in the Red Sea. That type of experience, that type of scenario, that type of scenario that makes you feel like my options are limited. It's either I go forward, right? Or if I quit and I die. So either I go forward, let me just die trying rather than die not trying. That's what happens to a lot of this type of founders. Okay. And interestingly, like I keep saying, even in modern cities, I heard Silas talking earlier on, and he said, um, you know, we have to talk about the Lawrence, we don't talk about the Port Harcourt, the Lagoses, don't talk about the Lagoses, don't talk about the don't talk about the Lagoses and don't talk about the Lagoses and the in Abujas of this world. Don't talk about the Lagos and the Abujas of this world. There's a Lauren, there's Benin, there's all of those places you called, right? You can also find emerging entrepreneurs in Lagos. I just came back from Lagos this morning. In fact, that's one of the reasons I didn't join as early. My flight touched down at about 8:30. I got to the house like I got to the house like a few minutes to 10, right? So the Startups Art community we held a hangout yesterday, and a lot of the founders that were there, can be classified as emerging entrepreneurs, right? And these are people in Lagos. I mean, the almighty Lagos, if you understand what I mean, right? There's this thing that you can feel like because everybody is in Lagos, right? Everyone who is in Lagos is doing well, okay? So that's that's far from reality. So you cannot imagine entrepreneurs anywhere. And that's one of the reasons why I decided, I'm going to go through the slide in the way I'm going through them, okay? Let's go to the second slide, right? Let's talk about emerging cities. What's an emerging city? If you can go to the next slide. So, emerging cities are essentially opportunity deserts, okay? Opportunity deserts. And grossly undervalued markets. Why opportunity deserts? The opportunity deserts in the sense that opportunities can be scarce in emerging cities. What opportunities are we talking about here? Access to finance is an opportunity. So one of the things that make Lagos is the fact that, and like I spoke yesterday when I had the session in Lagos, right? I said to them, listen, one of the major gaps we see between a city like Lagos and a city like Port Harcourt or maybe Benin or Enugu is the presence of big corporate organizations in Lagos. All right. Now, one of the speakers that joined us yesterday for the session is the founder of Lagos Startup Week, right? Or Lagos Startup Lagos, that runs the Lagos Startup Weeks. My friend Olayinka was there, and it turns out that while he was talking, so a lot of the founders today that that are making wave are people that all of us were basically running around circa 2014, 2015, 2016, doing ecosystem, right? They are the people that are today, that are the founders, the people who are running the ecosystem, that were building the ecosystem, as of 2014, 2015. They are today the big founders that have raised millions of dollars. We had the example of Lemfi, for instance. Read one, the founder of Lemfi. I don't know how many of you know about Lemfi, right? Lemfi is making access to finance easier for immigrants in the African immigrants in diaspora, right? So that's what Lemfi is doing. They were in the news recently for acquiring a UK company, right? But here, 2015, 2016, 2017, Read One was basically running For Loop. It was the founder of For Loop, and For Loop was basically a programming platform, right? So you programming community, okay? And they were going around the different cities in Nigeria hosting conferences. I remember helping them to host one in Port Harcourt, as part of the ecosystem work, right? But today, Read One is the founder of Lemfi, and they started as money, by acquiring UK companies. Now, but that's not the story. That's not the story I'm trying to tell. The story I'm trying to tell is that part of what helped that ecosystem is the fact that there were big corporates who were interested in learning this thing that these people are doing and how they can get involved. FCMB, for instance, got involved and they built Hub One. They wanted to learn what digital transformation was, how to access the ecosystem. And so they built Hub One as a way to get into the ecosystem. But guess who they were hiring when they were doing that? They were hiring the ecosystem champions themselves, right? Some companies, somebody set up the zone, which used to host a lot of the ecosystem meetings in Lagos those days, right? Guess who they were hiring? They were ecosystem champions, okay? Now, who was supporting them? They were the big corporates, the First Banks of this world, the Sterling Banks of this world. Just name them, the big corporates that were in Lagos. Those were the people who were basically supporting and championing them. So the implication, obviously, is that the trajectory that you see the ecosystem has taken is because of that type of support. And I said to them, the gap you see is the absence of such support. For instance, before that meeting yesterday, I had another meeting somewhere with one of the banks, right? And they were my guy was telling me, oh, this type of conversation, you should have this conversation from the region, right? The guys in the region should be the ones to have this conversation. And I said to him, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have this conversation in the region. Why am I not going to have the conversation in the region? I'm not going to have the conversation in the region because the region people report to the Lagos people. And a lot of times, the region people don't understand what we're discussing. They lack the exposure of what we're trying to do, right? And even sometimes when they get it and they want to push, the Lagos people override them, right? So you see, that's the biggest gap that exists, in the emerging cities, okay? So there is this, but let's dovetail to finance, right? There is the debt of traditional finance infrastructure and traditional finance and infrastructure, finance infrastructure and infrastructure in general. There is that scarcity of traditional finance. And what do I mean? The banks are not there to loan to innovators and economic actors in these cities, right? Because the banks are not there to loan, to give support. You see, you don't, even when the banks have programs that are supposed to deal with these economic actors, right? Even when the banks have programs to deal with this kind of people, a lot of times it does not cross Lagos. If it does too much, it crosses into Ogun State, right? You will see it advertised in the national TV, national channels, right? Walk into any of the branches, you can do an experiment. Go tune in your TV, right, today, or get a newspaper, go to any of the newspaper and see any of the programs being advertised by any of the financial institutions. Then walk into the branch in your city today, like in Benin or in Port Harcourt. Walk into any of them and ask the people in that place about that program. You will see that they don't know anything about the program because they've not been communicated to. Okay, and this is what happens a lot of the times. And this is the challenge that founders in such emerging cities would always find. So there's dearth of opportunities. So I'd say it's an opportunity desert, okay? However, the other challenge you also see in emerging cities is there is a sparse ecosystem. Of course, because people don't understand the concept of ecosystem or startup ecosystem, you see a lot of people doing things in silos, okay? It's either it does not exist at all, or you see people doing things in silos. It's one of the reasons why we created Startup South, to help bridge the gap, bring all the actors together, and help them understand that they need to work together, that nobody is going to come and save them by themselves, right? We also go and advocate with the government to see how we can create an enabling environment. But to start with, the ecosystem is made up of stakeholders, the hubs, the founders, the talents, the government, right? And the investors. So those are the stakeholders that make up the ecosystem. But a lot of times you see that there is a disconnect between all of these people. There's a disconnect between the talent and the founders. There's a disconnect between the founders and the investors. There's a disconnect between the founders and the hubs. There's a disconnect between all of these people with the government, okay? Now, this is a challenge. So the challenge is more pronounced in emerging cities, right? So there is seemingly high level of talent in these emerging cities. People who went out of their way to try and build themselves up, develop themselves, right? But a lot of times these people they're not seen, they're not known, they can't find opportunities, right? So what happens eventually is that they migrate, they leave the city. Yeah. So those are some of by definition, these will be some of the characteristics of emerging cities. Of course, there is the place of lack of infrastructure. I've talked about that. Broadband penetration. You can see how I'm struggling with the internet. I didn't have challenge with this internet, this same Glo that I'm using now. I didn't have challenge with it in Lagos, right? But here in Port Harcourt, it's barely able to power my Zoom meeting, my Zoom call. You can imagine, right? So let's go to the next slide. So you see the challenge is there are two layered challenge, okay? So at every point in time, the emerging city entrepreneurs are playing on the hard mode, okay? So what are some of the pains? Low investor confidence on one hand, informal finance costs. So because of course, investors do not have confidence because they don't understand the space. Then because investors do not have confidence, these guys are left with having to deal with informal finance operators. And of course, that comes with informal costs, you're right? So some people get loans for as much as 40% to 50%, if not more, right? In fact, by the time you borrow money at 5% per month, right? And you hold by the time you hold that, that loan for 12 months, okay? What you've done, multiply 5 by 12, what do you have? You have 60%, okay? That's what you're paying back. What is the average loan rate from the banks? You have 27% and maybe 30%. But you see, because these people, I mean, we're complaining that 30% is high, which is what you would get traditionally, from the banks, right? Well, people are paying 60% for loan, okay? So you can imagine what's going on in those kind of places. Lack of formal credit, that's like a no-brainer. There's no formal credit. And I mean, it speaks to the last point, okay? So, but what is causing all of this? Poor banking infrastructure, right? The minimal support, what you have as accelerator, just call it minimal support. Minimal support from support organizations like accelerators, incubators, these are non-existent for those people, okay? But why? The last speaker, Elizabeth, spoke to lack of credit data, okay, when she was speaking. So I don't think I need to belabor the point. It's already established that people in such places, there are no credible credit data that the traditional finance people can leverage, okay? And this is one of the reasons why, yes, this is one of the reasons why you have the challenges that they are facing, right? So, but what can we do? Maybe you should go to the next slide. What can we do? I believe that's the next slide. Oh, sorry. Before we get to what we can do, what does access really mean? What does access really mean? So, you see, we are discussing finance here, but I don't want us to miss the fact that access is not just finance. Entrepreneurs in this region, in these cities, or these emerging places are not just looking for money, okay? Some of them are looking for opportunity to learn, to be better. Some of them are looking for opportunity to connect, right? And some of them are just looking for trust, for you to just basically trust them, like validation. If you understand what I mean, looking for validation, okay? So access does not only mean, we're not only looking at finance when we discuss assets. So it goes beyond lending, all right? So when we are discussing assets, we should also be looking at how to tailor this whole, if we're dealing with finance, we should also be looking at how to tailor it to the local realities. How do we tailor it to the local realities? Because there are times when finance alone will not cut it, right? So assuming you're able to provide them access to finance, what else? Some other times is they need more knowledge to be able to to make good use of the finance that you're providing. Okay, so you may want to consider risk models that value cash flow and not just collateral. Okay, you know, places like Aba, I was just few days ago, we announced our investment in a business based operating in Aba, right? And why did we invest in that business? We invested in that business because the problem these people are solving is a problem that I've been looking for somebody to solve since 2017. In 2017, we held startups at 3 in Aba, and as usual, we did a tour. We did a tour of the Aba cluster, and one of the places we went to was the leather manufacturing cluster, the area market, and we saw firsthand the ingenuity of these people, right? We saw what they were doing. These guys at that time were producing up to 1 million pieces of footwear that they were shipping to, they were exporting abroad to neighboring countries, Cameroon and the rest of them, every month. They were doing this every month, right? But these people had the capacity. You could see that there was a capacity for these people to produce much more, right? And make even more money. And one of the things in 2018, we ran a program that Ford Foundation sponsored. It was a hackathon. We were looking for companies that can build solutions to support these people, right? And we gave out $100,000 cumulatively to 3 winners. Okay, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000. That's what we gave out to 3 winners. Okay, we found opportunity in that space. Okay, now we have, of all the companies we invested in, only one is still we gave that money that time. Only one is still operational. But what they are doing essentially was a hardware thing, supporting the molds, making of molds for the shoes that these people are producing. That's what Clean Tunnel, is doing, and Clean Tunnel still exists. But Google still exists, but Google does not operate in Aba. Google is a digital logistics company based in Enugu, right? They got $20,000 from that program, but they're still alive. The person who got $50,000 is they've closed, and they're no longer in Aba, and that business is not operational. And I think the founders have also left the country, right? So that meant that I have been looking for, a solution that can assist and help these people grow until we found Shop Trio, and my VC firm chose to invest in them because these guys were executed. So sometimes, why am I saying this? Sometimes a lot of those people in those markets will not have the type of cash flow that banks are looking for to lend to them. So what is Shop Trio doing? Shop Trio essentially provided a digital platform that provides market access to these people. But what are they exactly doing? They are supporting bulk buyers, and sometimes even provide finance, okay, to these people to be able to buy and sell the product for them. So that's why we invested in Shop Trio. Okay, please go to the next slide. So why does the traditional finance fail? I think Elizabeth has talked about a lot of this already. So traditional finances basically see informal markets as unbankable, right? Because they are unable to recognize the the informal nature of what they're doing, and they are hoping that they can get them to help them to become more modernized in quotes. There's no empathy. There's no empathy. There's no much of design thinking going into the products building for these traditional finances. But in any case, they're not even their top customers to start with. All right. So to a large extent, they see these people as collateral damage. Okay. So they want to just focus on the small percentage that gives them their margins. All right. So they ignore informal economists, the informal clusters. They ignore them because they see them as risk. And yes, one of the reasons they see them as risk is because not just that they don't understand them, the effort and the energy it will take to get results out of these people, they feel we rather invest that effort and energy into another something that would yield more stuff for us. But the truth remains that properly harnessed, these places like the Aba cluster that I've talked about can actually outperform some of those places that they're diverting attention to. And that's the truth. And that's where I agree with Silas, in his fervent pitch earlier on about the emerging cities. Okay. A lot of times the traditional finances adopt one-size-fits-all risk models, right? And in doing this, they miss local nuances that could help unlock opportunities. Okay. Now, they say distance breeds cultural blindness. They don't, just like I mentioned earlier, the decision makers are in Lagos. So a lot of times, even things that can help them, they don't see it. Okay. They lose the cultural, they lose the cultural context to a lot of things. All right. So let's go to the next slide. I keep forgetting that you're the one controlling. I go and click. So let's go to the next slide. So what can we do? What can we do? Fintech essentially is embedding finance where business already happens. I don't know if everybody understands this, but let me create a bit of, let me open up a bit of this, right? I've seen lots of people trying to do fintech for fintech's sake. And I keep asking, where's the business? For fintech to succeed, there has to be a business. Business must already be happening. Otherwise, the fintech is going to struggle. So business is already happening in these clusters, in these emerging places, right? So what can we do? We should be able to build platforms. I talked about ShopTrio that was offering credit, embedded credit. You want to also leverage localized fintech cooperatives, and of course community-focused angel networks, right? And this is where the work that the Suba Capital team is doing becomes important. Digitizing the jaws of this world, helping the agents make better sense of what they are doing. I think this is where, I have to acknowledge the work that Suba Capital is doing in this regard. crowdfunding and decentralized autonomous organizations, or what you call DAO-led capital pools, right? These are some ways people can come together. People can come together and pool funds, and create structures around the accessing of those funds. The same way that people can leverage cooperatives, to do the same. There are lots of opportunities. I feel that Nigeria has not, in Nigeria, we've not tapped one tenth. I don't think we've started at all. We've not tapped the opportunity that exists, that we can make happen, that we can unlock through cooperatives. And I'm very passionate and interested, right? So I think I've even been slow about it. So I'm going to see how to work with the super capital and drive is such that a lot more people should have been on this call than we have, right? But we're going to see how we can work together and drive more conversation around this, because it's something, alternative finance is something that we should see how we can leverage. So I'll definitely be coming back to the team and to see how we can unlock the opportunities here. The next slide, please. So part of what we can do is also to leverage our diaspora, our diaspora community. We can leverage our diaspora community to create more access to finance, creating thematic funding areas. That's one of the things we can do. There's also the cash flow lending. They call it revenue-backed financing, revenue-based financing. Revenue-based financing is the finance type that some VCs, is a financing model that some VCs are doing today. So as opposed to taking equity in the business, they are giving you capital based on the revenue. So they take a percentage of the revenue you make every month, and they will take that. They will continue to take that until your revenue, until the money, the agreed sum has been deducted. Okay, so it's something. Now, we have to think deeper in the way we build product. And I think, I'm not sure who it was who spoke about this earlier, whether it was Silas, whether it was Elizabeth. I'm not sure who it was that spoke about this earlier. I think it's Silas. We must begin to think about how we build products to reach people at the lower level of the ladder or the base of the pyramid, right? We must begin to rethink how we build products, and because a lot of the products we build and call inclusion tools essentially ends up in the urban areas where people are already where there's already lots of alternatives. Okay, but brands like MoneyPoint have shown that if you can get to the rural, if you can take things to the rural areas, that you can unlock a lot of opportunities. Brands like I think I'm having a hangover. and Money Point have been able to show that, right? So I'm not sure why, but there's still much that needs to be done. And there's opportunity there, massive opportunity. I'm hoping that we can take that and we can leverage it. Let's go to the next slide. So, and I think this is my last slide, I think, I'm not sure, but so one of the other things we can do is actually to bridge the trust gap. There is a lot of mistrust, among entrepreneurs and especially around emerging cities. Okay, we have to be able to bridge that trust because, you cannot do business with people you don't trust, and trust grows when you know people, when you understand people, when you know people, you understand what they're about, what they're trying to do. In other words, when these people can talk to you and you can talk to them back, and both of you understand yourselves, then trust grows, right? So financial literacy, we will need to remodel and rethink how we product is about trust. Okay, so I've heard people say a lot that Nigeria is a low trust environment. So we need to work on that. Okay. The other thing again we need to do, which I think on, is the fact that we need to share. It is very important. Share your bits. So these people from wanting to share is the fear that if I share, I may become, excuse me, if I share, I may become, they don't want to support nor help me anymore, right? But what you don't know is by not sharing, you are suppressing your potential supporters. You're making it harder for them to reach you. Okay, so because validation builds accountability. Okay, and even helps to support their growth. Can you hear me? Let's go to the next slide. So emerging cities are not just margins. They are the next frontiers. Okay. Founder shit. Okay. What does that mean? You need to look beyond. I think for me, what the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to look beyond reports that that people that are sitting in Lagos and in some other places are producing narrative. You need to look beyond that. Test all things, try it out, and see for yourself what happened. Then policymakers, we need to build an enabling infrastructure We don't have enough. We don't have enough across Africa. Certainly not in the south and southeast. But we have to do something about it. Ecosystem builders, please help us discover undiscovered talents and promote them. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Thank you very much. I hope that this session has been able to capture, the things has been able to capture the things that you were looking to get out of them. I'm around and I'm happy to take some questions. Thank you, Unyime.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uche. Thank you so much. This was a really insightful session. Coming back from your trip straight to speak with us. Thank you so much. My notes is full, like I took a lot of notes. One key thing that stood out for me was that we need to focus on growing trust, as it is what would ultimately lead to financial growth. Because when there is no trust, everybody's holding on to what they think they have, it will just spiral out, and then we're unable to build the um, communal validation that we need. So trust is very key. Thank you so much, Mr. Uche. Okay, so if there are any questions, Mr. Uche is available to take questions. You can drop your questions in the chat box or put up your hand, and then we'll give you a chance to speak so that we can quickly take questions before we move forward. Do we have questions? Do we have questions? Could be questions to Mr. Uche, it could be questions to the previous speakers on the panel earlier. Could be about what we've talked about today, or what we're going to talk about, or what we talked about yesterday. If there are any questions, let's have a questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Uche, for coming to speak with us. That was an insightful one. Please, let's give him a virtual round of applause. Okay, David, you can unmute and then let's hear you, your question or contribution, as the case may be.
All right, thank you so much. So I was one of the persons at the event yesterday here in Lagos, and it was a very insightful one. I was happy to be there because I got more insight than I expected being there, and I'm also happy to be here. Actually, I saw this on his LinkedIn after the event yesterday, and I just put it on my calendar that I have to be here. And I'm grateful that I'm here because I didn't know that actually these things are being done in the south, southeast. Myself, I came from southeast to Lagos because like I felt like there's no ecosystem over there to build what we're building. But I took the initiative to register the business in the southeast, in Omaha particularly, because I felt like the best way to build back there is to trust that you can actually have your business headquartered there and then build around Nigeria. So my question is for the people down there, understand that working with campus, especially the South, the part of South is working with campus communities. So how do they set up those? Because myself, I really believe that a lot comes from the campus communities also that people are building there. But it seems just students building together, there's no they are not connected with the bigger infrastructure like the experienced entrepreneurs and those who can actually give them the support they need to grow. So most times people innovate in school, and then by the time they graduate, because of challenges, they just forget about it and go find a job. So I think that's something. So how is that connection being built? Because I'm still like trying to understand how that connection is there. Because myself, I'll be going back to Maya for something very soon. So I expect that I can be able to like meet up and then connect to communities down there if there are.
Thank you very much, David. So glad that you were in the program yesterday and you're here again today. So thank you so much. So we actually started last year to build the campus communities, and it is spreading as we speak. We have communities across a number of schools already, and more are coming up. What we're doing is we're even the city communities as well. More city communities are going to be launched any moment from now. So typically what we do is once there's a volunteer willing to lead the city community, and we assess the person and the person is good enough to lead the community, we would we would launch the community, right? That's basically what we do. So the same thing applies to the campus communities. Um, and then we give them access to the networks and the resources that we already, collating and amassing for the region. So great. I mean, I don't know whether to say it's great to know that you left Umuahia to Lagos, whether or to say that it's sad that you left Umuahia to Lagos, right? But whichever the case, we're working to ensure that people like you don't have to leave. But if you must leave, then it has to be by choice and not because you are forced to. All right. So that's why the Startup South community exists. Okay. I mean, glad that we're connected now. So we will stay in touch and see how to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so
Uche.
much.
Thank you, David. Okay, does anyone else have any question or contribution? Could be from the keynote, could be from the panel sessions of yesterday and today. Let's have you come up. Questions, contributions, observations, something boggling your mind about Okay, so in the absence of that, we would like to close this session. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Uche, for pouring all of that knowledge to us this morning. We really appreciate your time and your presence. Thank you. At this point, we would like to, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Enime, for
Thank you.
having me.
Yes,
Well
thank
done.
you. Thank you so much, sir. So, at this point, we would be wrapping up the conference here. But before we wrap up, we would invite Mr. Silas to speak with us. But if there is a question, please raise your hand and let us hear you. Raise your hand and let's hear you if there's a question.
All right, thank you, Yime, for inviting me back to speak with everybody. So, like I said earlier, this is more like a vote of thanks or wrapping up the conference. We have been able to build a community since 2020, when we incorporated the company, and on the back of, building a community prior to that, right, to create this movement that I've said, it is, it is. What I would encourage us to do is to take this message that we've shared with a couple of us and then take it out to our family, our friends, sometimes even our foes, enemies. They also need this message because they also spend money, right? They also build businesses. So I don't think money is an enemy of anybody, or having self-sustenance is an enemy of anybody. We have seen the demo of the app. I possibly call um, Adaku to kind of do another demo on the app, like she mentioned earlier, right? We have seen a demo of the app yesterday, what the platform looks like, what the benefits are. Join our community. You can see in the chat room, there is a link to join the WhatsApp community. There's a link to join to give your feedback on the conference. We would appreciate if you join the community to get more updates. We would appreciate if you also share your honest feedback as to how we've done in the last 2 days. We would also appreciate if you tell people about the platform Suba Capital, as well as you yourself getting on the platform. Interestingly, I can see people who used our pilot platform between 2020 2022, and they can testify to, how efficient and effective it was when we ran that pilot, and that validated the need for building a live product on Play Store. Hopefully, in next year, we'll be able to reach iOS users as well. So both those on Android and iOS would then be able to have access to the product and to the solution. As for campus outreach that David asked about, good thing, Uche, we've been able to get his attention enough to say he's willing to work with us. So we would possibly work with Startup South and other collaborators in the ecosystem to reach as many campuses as we can reach, starting with University of Benin, University of Port Harcourt, and most of the universities or higher institutions that are around the cities where we operate. So in essence, all I'm saying is thank you for your time. Thank you for your data. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for sharing on social media. Thank you for engaging with the conference. And thank you to the Suba Capital team for putting this together. For the first time, it's not me organizing the conference. It was, it's just me showing up and coming to talk. So the team has done a fantastic job. Well done to the team. And we look forward to having a more engaging, conversation around what we're building going forward. So
Okay.
I'll hand over to you, Ime.
Yes,
And
before you go, so a question in the chat box. Someone
yes,
is
please.
asking, how will Suba Capital measure the real impact of financial inclusion at the grassroots level, especially for the non-educated ones?
Okay, so especially for the non-educated ones, how we measure it, we have an ESG benchmark. It's ESG's environmental, social, and government benchmark to measure impact for the kind of work that we do. Basically, having people collecting data of people who use our platform, who engage in our financial literacy campaigns, outreaches, with the large population being young people, youth, women, and young girls. For the non-educated ones, it's, interacting with them and collecting that data orally, and then converting that data into metrics that we can measure, right? The only way we are able to measure that what our work has impacted them is how much they've been able to now do with what they've been able to access on the platform. A woman selling tomatoes at the market, how are we going to measure the impact on her using the Suba Capital platform, she probably has moved from selling 1 basket a week to selling 12 baskets a week. So that is growth. When we interact with her, we are then able to take that oral data and convert it into measurable metrics. She's been able to support her child through university. That she is uneducated, but because of her interaction with our platform and the knowledge she has gained from our financial literacy campaigns, she's then been able to understand that education is important for her own children. And then she has been able to, through that business, selling 1 basket to 12 baskets, send her child through school. So that way we're able to measure that impact. That way we're able to measure that including her into the financial ecosystem that we have built at Suba Capital has helped her to expand her business and then increase or close the knowledge gap in her family by sending a child, to formal education, even though she is not formally educated. So these are some of the ways, we collect those data and measure them and be able to make sure that our work is reaching the grassroots. Hopefully, I've been able to answer that question. So, you're on mute.
Okay, so she's also asking, how can fintech and digital platforms like the Suba Capital app be used responsibly to improve access without further widening the digital divide?
One of the fastest way to do it is to have liaisons. So people like agents, collection agents, student ambassadors who understand the digital technology. It's almost like having an interpreter for a foreign language, right? So I possibly don't know how to use digital solutions, but someone else knows how to use digital solutions. The person becomes a liaison between myself and that particular user. So that way we're able to close that gap. If we want them to come into or include them, being inclusion, we want them to be able to include them onto our service. We should be able to use a liaison to do that interpretation between someone that has digital knowledge with someone that doesn't have that digital knowledge. So that way we are able to close that gap and not widen it. They are then able to use the digital platforms indirectly through agents, collectors, or the student ambassadors.
Thank you so much, Mr. Silas, for shining light on that. And I hope your question has been answered completely, Chinwe. Okay, so we can at this point invite Ms. Adako to do a run through of the demo again of how to use our product. Ms. Adako, over to you, please. You're currently muted. We are unable to hear you.
Okay, so I was saying that please confirm when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so this is the Suba Capital app. This is what it looks like. If you are new to the product, you need to complete the sign-up form. With this, you sign up, you create an account with us, and after this, it takes you to complete your KYC because it is required from us by the government to know our our customers and to better serve you and your needs, right? So when you are filling this, if you are new, ensure to use my referral code ADAKUE at that point. Let's go back to sign in. I would sign in on my account. Great. So when you sign in, this is the first step. This is what you hit first, the home page with a slideshow of all your financial, what your financial transactions with us are. One thing we are very concerned about is to ensure that there's transparency in all of your financial dealings with Super Capital, and it is simply and very easy to use. This first thing, okay, one of the features, like I mentioned earlier, is we have 3 features on the Super Capital app. One is savings, the other is investment, and the next is loans. Now, with savings, you can save for any of your personal goals. You can save to, we have some pre-named categories that you can save for. However, you can also decide to choose anyone else that works for you. So you can give your particular name. So instead of saving for education, you say I'm saving for children, right? You name your goal. And so let's take, for instance, I want to save for my rent. I am a young lady. I say my budget is, my rent is, let's say, 300,000. No, house rent first, right? So house rent, the budget is 300,000 naira. How much am I saving now? Because I have 500 on my wallet, that's why I'm using 500 currently. Saving duration. I mentioned that you can save for period of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, as the case may be. So you are not restricted to saving for a short term. You are not restricted to always having to close out your current savings and begin again. You can always continue from that. So I'll do 12 months here. Then you choose how often you want to save. You want to save daily, you want to save weekly, you want to save monthly, and then I can proceed to continue. And then this is a review of all the information that I have put before now. You can review it, and if you feel like, oh, you've missed out something, you can always go back, make an edit, and come back to complete your savings. The next thing would be, that's an error, don't know why. We'll come to investment. You can create investment. I said that one good thing with Super Capital is that you don't have to, you are not bothered or boggled with all the plenty information on investment out there. There's a rise in investment education. However, with the rise of education, it increases the confusion on what exactly to invest in. Do I want to invest in stocks? Do I want to invest in real estate? Do I want to invest in cryptocurrency? You take out all of that confusion and you just put your money to work with you. We adopt a co-investment strategy similar to a mutual fund where we all put our monies in one basket and the monies are diversified in our investment strategy. Like we had learned from our previous from the day one, Tobore mentioned about resilient finance. So that's one of the strategies that we employ. Right, so you can click on anyone that suits your current earning bracket and you can make the savings consistently every month. Alternatively, if you are not saving, you probably want to get a loan. There are terms and conditions attached to accessing loans or Super Capital app, right? So one of it is that you must have used the platform consistently for 90 days. The reason why we are asking to use it consistently for 90 days is because we need to be certain of what your records are, what your financial muscles are. We need to get the data on your finance, your earnings, what you are able to keep aside consistently, right? And then you also need to be able to bring in 2 of your friends, right? So people that currently use the product and can also guarantee you to an extent with what they have in their wallet. All of these things, that's why we are able to keep our interest rates very low, because of the model that we follow for our loans and all of those things. Apart from that, you can also come on the more side where you include your withdrawal accounts, your notification settings, customer support. You can talk to customer support directly from the product without having to go outside of it. So Suba Capital is very inclusive because you don't have to save here, use another app to invest and use another app to access loans. You can do everything right on this app. Then we have for funding, when you need to fund, it is very easy. Remember, we are customer centric, and our customers are not exactly digitally savvy. So we are taking away a lot of the confusion for you, our users. You simply click on fund via bank transfer, and then you copy this and do a simple transfer. Even with your mobile phone, you can do a USSD transfer to your Suba Capital wallet. When you do that, your funds will reflect here, and it is from your wallet balance that you can fund your savings or fund your investment, or your loan to be sent to your wallet balance. Then lastly, apart from earning by yourself on Suba Capital, you can also invite your friends, your family, your enemies, anybody and everybody is advised. You can welcome them to join you on Suba Capital. I mean, it's like the good news, right? You don't want to hear this good news alone. You don't want to sit on this good news alone. You click on refer and earn. Yeah. So we have steps and terms and conditions that attached to referrals on Suba Capital. One of those is that you yourself who want to refer others, you should also be using the product. You cannot speak good of a product that you are not using. You use the product, you get your friends, families, and foes to sign up, create an account, complete KYC, complete at least a minimum of one transaction, and then you will get the referral bonus. Okay, so my code once again is ADAKUE, Adaku. So you can use my code to sign up as your referral code. And I talked about transparency. So everything I have done with Suba is reflecting here. All of my transactions, I can always find them anywhere I go. So this is everything. So transactions, we also maintain a very open line of communication. Whatever it is that whenever you run into a challenge, you can also reach out to us, either customer support, our customer support numbers, or you chat with any of our reps on our social media handles. Okay, so I hope that you will be downloading the app. The link to the Play Store is in the chat box, and you could download the app. Remember, Adaku is the code. Use it, and I will see you soon.
Thank you so much, Adaku. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It was nice having you, and I want to believe that just like I learned a lot, you all learned a whole lot as well. Thank you for being with us. So with this, we come to the end of the conference for this year. Okay, we would love to hear your feedback on all of the sessions. We encourage you to download the app on Google Play Store and sign up, and let's get started on building our finances better, taking it to the next level. We can start small. As a matter of fact, we should start small so that we don't become weary. Okay, follow us on all our social media handles. Follow us, join our community on WhatsApp, on Telegram, and let us, connect and be in touch. Thank you so much. It was nice having us, and we have come to the end of this segment. We have come to the end of the conference. Until next time, bye-bye.